I'm Jacob Seelman.
And I'm Tom Baker.
You're listening to Speed77 Radio,
powered by Race Chaser Online.
We are your home for motorsports.
Here we go. Green, white, checker. Down to the inside comes Logano. Three wide. It's the Kyle and Kyle show behind Logano and Gordon. Connecticut, go Huskies! Joey Logano wins!
Good evening, race fans, and fasten your seatbelts. This is about to get good here tonight. Welcome to Motorsports Madness on Speed77 Radio and Race Chaser Online. I'm Jacob Seelman, the voice of Speed77, and as we roll through tonight's program, boy, we have got a star-studded lineup for you here tonight. We are going to talk about Texas Motor Speedway and the NASCAR Sprint Cup Series race that just finished up a couple hours ago from Texas. Would we see 7 different winners in 7 different races? We'll have all the analysis in just a few moments. We will hear from our open wheel expert Joel Sebastianelli about all those happenings that went on over the weekend in Bahrain and get ready for this weekend's action in Long Beach, as well as hear from the Indy Lights winner from last weekend in St. Petersburg, Zach Veach. And at the top of our second hour here tonight at 8 p.m. Eastern during the show, we will have Chase Elliott on live tonight to talk about his NASCAR Nationwide Series win from Texas, the big win for that young man out of Junior Motorsports. A lot to talk about here tonight on the Madness, and I want to bring in my co-host Tom Baker. Tom, certainly a lot of great things going on over the weekend in motorsports, and we are going to talk about a whole lot of them here tonight on the show.
Yeah, I think we got something for just about every appetite this evening. A lot of stuff going on. Of course, the NASCAR Sprint Cup Series race just concluding a few hours ago at Texas. Had a one-day rain delay, and what a great race it was, 7 for 7. We'll get to that in a little bit. But yes, Jacob, definitely a lot of different types of racing to talk about, national, regional, local, and a couple of excellent young racers with just tons of star potential are going to be featured on tonight's show, so we're very excited about that as well.
Yes, we are, and let's get right to it. I'm excited to talk about some motorsports, so let's rock and roll with this, and I do want to get to this afternoon's NASCAR Sprint Cup Series event because, boy, if you didn't at least tune into the end of it, you missed a barn burner of a race. Absolutely incredible finish to that one that went a few laps beyond its scheduled distance. We went a little more than 500 miles due to a late race caution, but green-white checkered finishes, gambles like we've seen all season long, Tom. We saw guys on 2 tires, guys on 4 tires late. We saw Jeff Gordon almost get a victory, but in the end, in my opinion, the strongest car over the course of the entire race won this afternoon. How about Joey Logano, the Connecticut native? Could he be previewing what we might see in tonight's NCAA championship game? Not that Joey cares much about basketball, as we heard this weekend, but he grabs a big win in Texas.
I know he likes hockey. That much I know. I'm not too sure about the basketball thing from Joey, but I'm not sure about the whole Connecticut winning tonight, but that's a different kind of show. We'll stick to racing for now. I am hoping that UConn wins, but I say that as much to agitate all of my friends from Kentucky out there as I do to create waves here on the racing show. But yeah, it was a great race, Jacob. You know, Joey really, I mean, all year long, Joey's been very competitive. You know, the Penske team has about had qualifying down to a science all season long. And, you know, it it's one of those situations where the competition in the racing right now is so close that, hard to finish the deal at times. And as evidenced by the fact that we've had 7 winners in 7 different races. But today, Joey certainly was the car to beat, and he talked about after the race how confident he was going in. Todd Gordon and the crew had given him a great car to race with. And, it struck me that when we had that last caution there at the end, a lot of people, I was watching social media, and a lot of people were saying, we really need a caution to make this a race because Joey was just running off and hiding. And we had the caution and they had pit stops. Didn't make any difference. Joey still ended up pulling away and winning the race. Didn't take him very long to get by Jeff Gordon. And, what a race Jeff ended up running, strong in the beginning. And then, it was an excellent call by Alan Gustafson to get him just 2 tires and give him a shot to win. But, it just wasn't enough. But that was definitely a great run for the 24 team. And I think Jeff is going to be a threat going forward here, certainly as we get to the heart of the racing season here in the summer.
I definitely agree. Jeff has been very, very close this year, and I'm looking forward to seeing what he can do with the rest of his 2014 season. Obviously, been running well enough to be on top of the points. That second-place run allowed him to take over the points lead after we saw the leader coming into the day, Dale Earnhardt Jr. Boy, he didn't last long on a Monday in Texas and actually went out in a bit of a blaze of glory.
Well, that's one way to describe it.
It is one way to describe it, but Junior, boy, he tried to make the move just like his dad did, the pass in the grass, if you will, and boy, it didn't pan out, not at all.
No, it was, wow, I can't believe you said that, a blaze of glory, I like that. That was unfortunately a very costly mistake. I mean, it's rare to see Junior make a mistake like that. It's one of those things, I guess. You just, everybody messes up now and then, and thank God he wasn't injured, and, nobody else really other than Jimmy Johnson ended up with any collateral damage from it. But that was a really hard crash, and just what a tough day for Junior. I mean, you would have figured that he would have contended for the win, but I guess this is one of those times, Jacob, where you look at what happened to Junior today and you say, well, this new point system, he's surely not going to take that big of a hit in the points. He's already got a feature win. Listen to me talk short track here. He's already got a race win, so he's going to be in the chase. So that's what's neat about this system is, when you have one of these races where you have that mistake and you cost yourself, it doesn't hurt you as bad as it might have in the past because he's already pretty much locked in.
And that poses the next question I want to get to. We've seen 7 different winners in 7 races so far this season. Does one win get you in the chase, or is it going to take more than one to guarantee yourself a spot? The way we've seen different winners pile up this season, I almost sit here and ask myself, the potential exists to maybe have more than 16 different winners before the Richmond cutoff.
Well, that's a good point, Jacob. I think that you have to look at it and at least explore that possibility that you might have to. Well, it's an interesting scenario because you do have to get to 16 before you start to have that issue, and then you start adding second winners, and you say, well, okay, yeah, I mean, it really could be a situation where you might have to have a second win, and it's getting harder and harder to win one of these races, let alone win multiple numbers. And so I really think that NASCAR has hit on a combination with the cars and all of that is working. And we're seeing some of the best racing I've ever seen in the Sprint Cup Series. And I just think this is really a lot of fun to watch because from week to week, you just really never know who's going to win, because even you almost can throw past stats out, because the competition right now is so close and the cars are so close that you take a track where, for example, maybe a Jimmy Johnson or a Kyle Busch or someone would normally in the past be the dominant car. And, you can have a day where a Kurt Busch or a Kevin Harvick or whomever it may be steps out of the shadow and just, has a decent day, then does some trickery in the pit stop process and, maybe takes 2 tires out and everybody else takes 4, like Jeff Gordon tried to do today, and ends up winning a race. So I think this is just a really fun season so far to watch, because it really has taken a lot of the dominant car factor right out of it. Doesn't matter what you did in the past. This is a different season, and you really got to work hard to win these races. And it's really winning you're in. And as you said, if it starts to get to the point where it's taken multiple wins, well, that just makes the changes that NASCAR made over the winter even that much more fantastic, because again, it's even more about winning. So, I see this as being nothing but good right now, and I can only envision what the last 10 races are going to be like and how hard these guys are going to run the last 10 races, because we keep resetting the points every quarter and disqualifying people.
And oh, by the way, if you win in one of those 3 elimination rounds, you automatically advance to the next round. So you want to talk about winning being important, it's going to get even more important. But before we go to our first caution flag of the night, Tom, do want to touch on the NASCAR Nationwide race. We'll hear about it a lot more a little bit later on in the program, but I have to give props to Junior Motorsports. Dale Earnhardt Jr., though he didn't have the day he wanted in Texas, boy, his team did on Friday night. Put all 4 cars inside the top 10, and they ran in all inside the top 5 at points during the evening on Friday night in Texas. And the rookie, Chase Elliott, I didn't think we were going to see it happen this early in the season. I thought he would get a win before the end of the year, but this soon, that young man has proven adaptable, and he impressed me greatly on Friday night.
Yeah, he really has. And you thought going into the season that eventually he was going to be contending for wins, and I think a lot of us thought that he was going to need some time to learn the tracks and kind of step up to the level of competition that Nationwide is. Well, proved us wrong. He's been a factor right from the start, and just did an amazing job. Really, really excited about what Chase did the other night. And also, as you said, the whole Junior Motorsports team, really. I mean, Regan Smith led laps, and you had Chase, and you had Junior up there, and you had Kevin Harvick. I mean, everybody was very competitive, and that's not, the 4-car deal is not something that Junior Motorsports is used to doing. So certainly impressive for those guys. But yeah, Chase definitely did a great job. And I got to tell you, the other driver, we didn't talk much about him in the Cup race. Haven't talked about him at all today. But Kyle Larson in both series, just that kid is just unbelievable. I mean, he's made Chip Ganassi look like a very smart man for moving him up to Cup this year. Drove to the front again today and was right there in contention at the end and making the aggressive moves that he's becoming known for. He's not wild and out of control. He's just not afraid to make the pass when he sees it. And the Kyle and Kyle show is kind of interesting to watch in both series, because it seems like they're always around each other. And boy, Kyle Larson is just a young man with an absolutely outstanding future. I mean, that's a kid that you just have to wonder how soon it'll be before he starts rattling off Cup wins and whether or not he's going to go on a hot streak, because I really think that once he starts winning races, boy, it's going to be hard to make him stop.
2 words: You think? Kyle Larson's going to be a threat this season. I have no doubt about that. I had no doubt about it when Chip Ganassi put him in the car. But I tell you what, the young man's been good. He won the nationwide race at Fontana a couple weeks ago, almost won the Cup race, ran top 5 today in Texas. He likes the high line. He makes the high line pay off for him, and we will see him win a race this season before the end of the Cup Series is done. Mark my words, I'm going to go out on the limb and say that. I feel like right now it's a decently sturdy limb with the way he's been running, but we'll have to wait and see. Our crystal balls are good, but I don't know that they're quite that good.
Well, I mean, I would be almost willing to say I think he may win more than one at the rate he's going. I mean, you know, the second half of the season, once he, again, gets experience in all the tracks at the Cup level and really has time. I mean, remember, there's new crew chiefs over there. It's a whole new situation at Chip Ganassi Racing on the NASCAR side this year, and so really a lot of changes there. And I think, you know, with more time and more chemistry, and Kyle just learning just a little bit more and continuing to figure out the aero and all of that in these cars, I just think he's just gonna be real tough to deal with as we get into the second half of the season.
Yeah, he is, and it's going to be exciting to watch. We know that much. But with that, we're going to take our first caution flag of the night. When we come back, we're going to shift gears a little bit and go to the short track scene as we talk some of the motorsports action that took place on some of the nation's short tracks over the weekend. That's coming up when we come back. You are listening to Motorsports Madness on Speed77 Radio and Race Chaser Online. Stay with us.
For 17 years, Stock Car Steel has been a leading materials supplier to the racing industry. We're proud they're a motorsports content partner here at Race Chaser Online. The biggest names in NASCAR trust Stock Car Steel for raw materials such as carbon steel, chrome moly, DOM, aluminum, plastics, and much more. You can't build a race car without the basic materials, and Stock Car Steel is the place to get them. Don't forget to also visit Stock Car Steel's sister company, SRI Supplies, for racing and industry. SRI is the place to go for all your shop supply needs. Nuts, bolts, rivets, tapes, adhesives, cutting tools, chemicals, body shop supplies, paint shop supplies, lubricants, and more. A well-stocked race shop is a winning race shop, and the path to winning begins with 3 letters, SRI. For more information, visit stockcarsteel.com or SRI-supplies.com. Check them both out on Facebook or call them toll-free at 1-888-752-7272, 1-888-752-7272.
Hi, this is Jamie McMurray here for RAD, the entertainment industry's voice for road safety. Want to make a difference? It's simple. Be responsible. Plan ahead. Designate before you celebrate. Friends don't let friends drive drunk.
Baby, you can drive my car. Yes, I'm gonna be a star.
A public service message brought to you by the U.S. Department of Transportation, RAD, the National Association of Broadcasters, and the Ad Council.
I'm Jacob Seelman.
And I'm Tom Baker,
You're listening to Speed77 Radio.
powered by Race Chaser Online.
We are your home for motorsports.
Welcome back to Motorsports Madness here on Speed77 Radio and RaceChaserOnline.com. Jacob Seelman and Tom Baker around tonight's round table to discuss all the latest happenings from around the world of motorsports. And Tom, you debuted earlier in the week a new column on Race Chaser Online that we called The Short Stack, talking a little bit about some of the news and notes from around the short track racing world from across the country. I want to take off that and run a little short stack on tonight's show about some of the happenings from the weekend's short track racing action. Obviously, we'll go into a little bit greater detail on Thursday night's broadcast of the Stock Car Steel SRI Motorsports show, but let's hit a couple of the highlights here real quick. Hickory Motor Speedway over the weekend ran the X1R Pro Cup event, the Catawba Valley 250, and how about this? Another name that I feel like going to be talking a lot more about in the weeks and months to come. Coleman Presley took advantage of a late race restart, made a pass on Caleb Holman with 6 laps to go in the 250-lap event on Saturday night to claim a victory there, and he's been out of the car most of the season. He's been crew chiefing for McKenna Bell on the K&M Pro Series side, but hopped back in the family-owned 59 this weekend and rolled it to victory lane.
Well, you didn't think Coleman forgot how to drive or anything. I mean, my goodness, Coleman's a good young racer, and there's so much young talent all over the country in various disciplines of the sport, and they're all trying for the same 123 starting spots in NASCAR's Big Three Series, it seems. And Coleman's been close. I mean, he's been in the mix and ran some I think some truck stuff and maybe even a nationwide race or two. I can't remember, but Coleman's definitely a talented young man. He's a great kid too, and it's good to see him back in the saddle. And not surprised at all that he got the win. This is a driver who easily could be racing at one of NASCAR's higher levels. It just hasn't worked out for him in terms of the situation. So happy to see him get the win, and happy to see Reed Wilson get third too in the Bojangles Cheerwine 66 car. There, Reed is definitely another young man who, if he just gets the right opportunities and keeps focused on the right things, I think Reed has a chance to go far. And it was nice to see him finish in the top three again in the Pro Cup Series. His first win, I think, is not far away.
No, I agree with you. It's not. That's back-to-back third-place finishes for Reed to start the season, too. But congratulations to him on a solid run. That car is going to make me hungry before the end of this show, I swear. But while we're talking pavement short tracks, Tom, let's roll to Pass South, the Orange County Speedway up in Rougemont, North Carolina. How about this name? We've not talked about this name and this driver in quite a while, going all the way back, I think, to 2011, the last time he went to Victory Lane. Roger Lee Newton going to Victory Lane in the Pass South Super Late Model race at Orange County. Trevor Knowles gave him everything he could handle coming off turn 4, ended up spinning across the line, and Newton picks up his second win at Orange County, and other than Preston Peltier, he's the only driver in past history to accomplish that at OCS. So good to see him back in Victory Lane. He's been real loyal to the Super Late Model contingent over the last few years, and I know that was a very, very fan-friendly victory.
Well, and an example of I was about to say an example of a local driver making good against the Touring Series racers, but I mean, he's done so much touring, but you just kind of you associate him more with, again, he's been around for so long. It's just it's hard to categorize him really as a tour racer per se, because he's done so much racing in various places. But certainly a great win there, and always a popular win. Roger Lee Newton is not a driver who wins bunches of races every year, but he's one of these drivers that's always in the mix, and he's always fun to watch. He's always giving it his all, and he's just he's just always a driver that when he's at the racetrack, he's a popular racer, and people like to see him run. So we're hoping to have Roger on Thursday night, trying to make that happen for our Stock Car Steel SRI Motorsports show coming Thursday. But and I want to give a call to Trevor Knowles too. Again, a young man with a ton of talent who is trying to make his name now in the Super Late Model Series. I think he's still running the Pro Late Models as well, but up at the Big Boy Pass Series now, and Trevor really had a great run. Orange County's a very tough track. It's a very tight track. You really have to be up on the wheel and in traffic a lot. And so good to see Trevor Knowles with a strong run there. That sounded like it was a great race. I was disappointed I wasn't able to have the opportunity to go see it, but it sounded like it was quite the show.
As did it sound to me as well from hearing about it. Continuing on the pavement super late model track of things, let's go Sunoco Southern Super Series racing. And the title of this brief, I think, is going to be Heartache and Jubilation. Heartache for John Hunter Nemechek, who thought he had won at Fairgrounds Speedway Nashville on Saturday night, but was ultimately disqualified in post-race tech for an illegal drive shaft, and that handed the win to Donnie Wilson, his first Southern Super Series victory. And for another driver, a long winless streak being broken on Saturday night in kind of an unexpected way.
Yeah, it just goes to show that you never know until the checkered flag falls, and even after the checkered flag falls, you still never know. We had a couple of disqualifications in major late model events over the course of the weekend, and post-race tech is a part of it, and so good to see Donnie Wilson get the win, even if it was under circumstances for which he probably would rather have traded that just to come across the checkers in first, but again, that's part of the process, so congratulations to him, and that series is so loaded with talent and always so much fun to keep an eye on, just a tough weekend for a few different drivers and late models around the country in post-race tech for sure.
Yeah, and I do want to hit on that real quick. You mentioned several disqualifications. The other one that came to light today from Thompson Speedway Motorsports Park was Keith Rocco, who ran the late model division as part of the Icebreaker weekend up there over the weekend, and his car was found illegal in post-race tech, a violation of their crate engine rule. So Rocco disqualified and will receive no purse money for his efforts over the weekend. A tough break for that team, who is vying for another Whelen All-American Series championship. Not the way they wanted to start their season, but while we're talking about the Icebreaker, want to give a shout-out to Justin Bonsignor, who held off Woody Pitcat, who tried and tried and tried and tried, and when it counted, just could not get back to the front. He wanted that first career Whelen Modified Tour win and just came up a little bit short to the Long Islander.
Yeah, what a start to the season for Justin Bonsignor, and really what a race up there at Thompson. It also, we probably ought to spend a little time talking about the Southern Modified Tour race at South Boston too, because that also a great race. Andy Seiss coming home the winner again, but another good race there, and want to just give a shout out to fanschoice.tv, because Jacob, that was just so cool able to watch those races live from the comfort of, well, in my case, my office, but from the comforts of home, and not feel like you're missing out. I think that's just going to be a huge deal there, that fanschoice.tv, Jacob. I love it, and it'll give the race fans a chance to see some great racing from around the country in various disciplines and divisions that ordinarily they wouldn't see, and get to know some of the up-and-coming talent that would be in the major leagues of those various disciplines and divisions at some point in the near future.
That's exactly right. Brownie points to fanschoice.tv, and how about all the coverage they had this weekend? Both Modified Tour races, local Whelen All-American Series coverage from South Boston, Thompson, and Evergreen Speedway. They had it all if you were a short track racing fan this weekend, and absolutely did a great job. I was thrilled to be able to watch both events on Saturday and Sunday on the Modified Tour side. As you said, congratulations to Andy Seiss. He kind of walked off with that one there in the end, despite Georgie Brunhosel's best efforts. So Andy Seiss 2 for 3 in Southern Modified Tour action as of late, and boy, we're going to have a lot more short track action to talk about on the dirt side when Steve Ovens and the gang get here. Obviously some World of Outlaws racing, some USAC racing from over the weekend, so we're not done on that side, but for now we're going to take another caution flag, and when we get back, Joel Sebastianelli is going to join us to talk open wheel racing, and we'll also hear from, as we said, one of the young stars of open wheel racing, Indy Lights winner from St. Petersburg, Zach Veach. That's coming up when we come back to Motorsports Madness here on Speed77 Radio and Race Chaser Online.
Packers,
Vikings,
Red State,
Blue State.
We come from different places.
Uptown,
Downtown.
We come to different conclusions.
half empty,
Half full.
But no matter how different we are, we're all connected, and we can all make a difference. That's why United Way brings people, expertise, and resources together to improve the education, income, and health of our communities, the building blocks for a better life. When we live united, our efforts, magnified by others, add up to real change. Children succeed in school, families gain financial stability, the health of our neighbors improves, and suddenly, so do our communities. But real change won't happen without you.
Live united.
So let's look beyond our differences.
Live united.
One by one, let's make a difference. Let's reach out a hand to one and influence the condition of all.
Live united.
Give, advocate, volunteer. Live United. Sign up today at liveunited.org. Brought to you by United Way and the Ad Council.
Let me drive.
How do you know when it's time to give up the keys? When your dog grabs your keys from your lap and your lap is on the floor. Yep, it's Jeff Foxworthy for Rad saying, when you party, be sure to designate before you celebrate.
If you want to make it home alive, let me drive.
A public service announcement brought to you by the U.S. Department of Transportation, RAD, the National Association of Broadcasters, and the Ad Council.
Just please don't drink and drive. It's not fun.
I'm Jacob Seelman.
And I'm Tom Baker.
You're listening to Speed77 Radio,
Powered by Race Chaser Online.
We are your home for motorsports.
Welcome back to Motorsports Madness here on Speed77 Radio and RaceChaserOnline.com. Jacob Seelman, Tom Baker, and now joined by our resident open wheel expert and wine and cheese specialist because of all the fancy food and traveling he supposedly gets to do that the rest of us don't. Joel Sebastianelli joining us back here on the Madness. Joel, certainly always an exciting weekend from around the open wheel world as well. Certainly got some F1 action to talk about, and you know, this weekend was a racer's dream. There was a little bit of everything going on.
Thanks for having me on, as always. You know, you say it's always an exciting week, but quite frankly, when Formula One visits Bahrain, it generally tends to be not that exciting. Who would have thought that one of the Tilkodromes, the places that Formula One fans and drivers typically dread going every single year, who would have thought that this would be one of the Grands Prix that over the course of the past decade stands out as being one of the best races that we've seen? Who said that Formula One in 2014 was going to be taxi cab racing? It was a fantastic Grand Prix, and it really was a race fan's dream all across the spectrum in every single league that you look at.
Yeah, it was. Let's talk a little bit about the F1 side of things first, Joel. I know you were very intrigued, especially because this race was under the lights this year. Certainly that adds a little bit to the spectacle, but we knew it was going to be a Mercedes-dominated event. That was nothing new. Their engine package has been brilliant all season long, and they've been really one or even two or three steps up on everybody all season long. But how about the race the two of them put on amongst themselves? Nico Rosberg and Lewis Hamilton going at it virtually from the drop of the blinking of the green lights, I guess, if you will. But Hamilton ultimately coming victorious, but what a race the two of them put on, just back and forth virtually the entire Grand Prix.
After the safety car with a few laps remaining, these guys were told, hey, listen, play nice, but go ahead and race, and that's exactly what they did, and what a spectacle it put on. Nico Rosberg, to me, seemed to be a little bit faster throughout much of the race, but it was Lewis Hamilton out in front. Generally managed to keep the gap out of the DRS zone with Nico Rosberg. The actual final gap between them was just over 1 second, 1.085 seconds to be exact, which is 0.085 outside of the DRS zone. Nico certainly got his cracks, but Hamilton seemed a little bit better in the corners to hold his line, to keep Nico Rosberg out of there. He certainly put on a challenge. I think that the championship is still wide open between these two. But my, oh my, what a race. And good for Mercedes for not exercising any real team orders and letting these guys race. They proved that they could race without taking anybody out of contention. It was close a few times. There were a few times for sure that we thought they'd come together, but magnificent driving under the lights by both of them. And Formula One, as much as I love the racing, is just as much a spectacle as it is a race. And underneath the lights for the 10th anniversary of this Grand Prix at the Bahrain International Circuit, it had everything that you would want. It was a magnificent weekend, and really look forward to this race in the future now. Like I said, who would have thought? Bahrain tends to be so dull, and this race was absolutely fabulous from beginning to end.
So let's talk points here for a minute, because we know Lewis Hamilton shaved 7 points off his deficit to teammate Nico Rosberg in the World Drivers' Championship, and the gap between those two of them shrinking down to just 11 points now. But how about the Constructors' race, though? Mercedes-AMG Petronas has left everybody. And I don't mean by just a little bit either. I mean they have swamped the field, more than 60 points ahead already in the Constructors' Championship. And Red Bull, 4-time defending world champs Red Bull, almost 80 points out in the Constructors' race already. Is the Constructors' title a one-horse race, even just 3 races in, Joel?
Yes. We figured that it probably would be, at least for very much at the beginning of the season. But even if these guys catch up, you got to look at it this way. You get 25 points for a win and 18 points for finishing second in a Grand Prix. So the maximum amount of points you can get, if you did the math right, and granted I'm not great at math, but that's 43 points. I can generally handle numbers 1 through 50. So even if Mercedes did not finish a race, and you had another constructor, let's just say Force India, because they're in second right now. If they finish first and second, they're still not going to catch Mercedes. Mercedes is clearly the fastest of all the teams out there. They're the most reliable of all the teams, although what's biting Lewis Hamilton right now is the fact that he didn't finish the Grand Prix in Australia, which Nico Rosberg won. That's the 11-point difference between the two of them right there. But Mercedes is so far ahead. Lewis Hamilton and Nico Rosberg 1-2 for consecutive weeks now. Nico Rosberg, of course, winning the season opener in Melbourne. They are far and away the best team, and even if Renault does turn things around, it's just way too close between the rest of these teams. One of the things that was so great about this Grand Prix is you had team battles. You had Mercedes-AMG Petronas 1-2, Nico Hülkenberg and Sergio Perez 3rd and 5th. You had the battles between Daniel Ricciardo and Sebastian Vettel during the race. 7th and 8th was Williams, 9-10 Ferrari. It's very separated by teams, and a lot of these teams are very evenly matched, but out front, it's Mercedes to lose, and, you know, there are plenty of ways that you can progress during a race season, but when you're as far ahead as these guys, how exactly are they going to regress? It's just not something I see happening. I think that you can already sign the deal on that. The Drivers' Championship, on the other hand, certainly well up in the air.
All right, before we get to previewing this weekend's IndyCar race at Long Beach, I do want to talk about one more F1 subject before we get there, and we've already mentioned him, the 4-time defending champ Sebastian Vettel. Interesting conversation over the radio during Sunday's Grand Prix. Vettel actually told to pull over at one point during the Grand Prix, and after 4 years of Sebastian Vettel, basically Sebastian Vetteling, who would have thunk that?
Definitely what a difference a year makes, but I think that, believe it or not, we're actually making way too much out of this specific scenario. He was not necessarily told to pull over. He was told, hey, listen, your teammate is faster than you. The two of you are battling right now, and you're holding up your teammate. For the sake of the team, to take the fight to the cars up in front, Sebastian Vettel was not going to do that. Ricciardo was lapping generally about 0.3 seconds faster than Vettel was at that time. They needed to take the fight to the teams ahead of them because Ricciardo had a better car. They should have done. To me, these types of bidders are not the toxic ones for the sport. This is a strategic team decision that, from their standpoint, to maximize on constructors' points, which Red Bull Renault is sorely lacking in, they needed to do this, and kudos to Sebastian Vettel for really being an adult about it, not for fighting it, not putting his teammate into the wall or, anything like that. He did what he had to do. He knew that there was no way for him to really put much of a fight up there with Daniel Ricciardo. All he's going to be doing is slowing his teammate and wearing both of their tires out. Let him pass. Is it with the halfway point during the race? And of course, as you see, Daniel Ricciardo stronger than Sebastian Vettel once again. He finished 4th. Vettel finished 6th. Ricciardo put nearly 6 seconds between the two of them after the safety car period. And that was with battling with the Force Indias and actually battling with some of those guys, which Sebastian Vettel really wasn't big in that battle. So Ricciardo was certainly much better than Vettel. It's a decision that had to be made. I see nothing wrong with it at all, and I bet if you ask Sebastian Vettel, he wouldn't have an issue with it either. His only issue is just, why is my car so much slower?
All right, let's look at the Indy cars this weekend because Formula One now with an off weekend before they kick their schedule back into high gear. But IndyCar this weekend at Long Beach, both the Indy Lights and the Verizon IndyCar Series taken to the streets of Long Beach for the Toyota Grand Prix of Long Beach, always one of the historic events on the schedule. Joel, we go into this weekend not really learning a whole lot from St. Petersburg, other than we know Will Power has not forgotten how to drive on road and street courses. What do we expect out of this weekend in California, and who do you like to win the event?
Well, certainly I'm not going out on a limb here, but I think to say that expecting Will Power to win, just like he did last week, to win his fourth race in a row if you combine between the 2013 season and 2014 season, I don't think it's much of a gamble there, and I think he's to be expected. Takuma Sato actually won the race in 2013, but it was very much a race of attrition. A lot of cautions in that race, a lot of guys finishing out of the race, including some pretty big notable names like James Hinchcliffe, Mike Conway, Ryan Hunter-Reay, a lot of contact in that race and a lot of caution. So I don't know how much you can take from that, but we do know that the AJ Foyt Enterprises number 14 is strong. They pulled off the pole, deservedly so, at St. Petersburg, and I'm sure they'll be right up there to battle. Will Power as well, definitely one of the premier events in the IndyCar series, and maybe even Mike Conway too. Mike actually won his first IndyCar race in 2011 at Long Beach when he was with Andretti Autosport at that time, and we saw that if not for a communication error while he was running third between him and his team, and the day completely went to garbage at that point. You could throw that thing in the garbage disposal after missing the pits and then actually passing the pace car. Another miscommunication, that time with the IndyCar series in the season opener. But he had raced his way all the way up to the front of the pack in that race. We know he's strong here and at any other place with left and right turns. Mike Conway could very well be another man to beat in the Ed Carpenter racing machine. It's going to be really interesting to see how ECR shakes out with Carpenter running on the ovals and Mike Conway running everything else. Both of their weaknesses were the other strengths. So to combine these two together, I think it's going to be a really fruitful partnership and one of the interesting storylines to keep an eye on in the IndyCar Series season this year.
And, of course, the Indy Light's going to be taken to the track this weekend as well. And you and I documented when you were down in St. Petersburg, Joel, how about a breakthrough win for Zach Veach out of the Andretti Autosports stable in St. Petersburg? That's a win that young man has been waiting on for over a year now. And I think we're finally seeing the fruits of all his labor over there at Andretti Autosport. Do you think we see Veach go 2 for 2 this weekend in Long Beach? And what do you see different from him starting 2014 from where he was this time a year ago?
Well, it's very tough to prognosticate that sort of thing after one race. Definitely a very strong driver. We know that he is. He's learned a lot of lessons, and he had a great teammate last year to learn from in Carlos Munoz, who's now racing in the IndyCar Series in the number 34 for Andretti Autosport. He's got another great teammate in Matthew Brabham this year who's certainly going to put the pressure on them, but they seem to be getting along very well, and that's going to be a great partnership between the two of them. They'll better each other, certainly. When you've got a teammate who can be competitive with you, it really oozes out every ounce of potential and every ounce of drive that you've got because you want to be the best of the two in the stable, as no matter how well you work together. Eliminated in this race very early last year, so very tough to even say how strong he is at Long Beach, really. But if you look at the list of winners in Indy Lights here, there are some very big names that have won at Long Beach. Paul Tracy, one of them. Greg Moore, Elio Castroneves, Cristiano D'Amata, Scott Dixon, Townsend Bell, J.R. Hildebrand, James Hinchcliffe, Connor Daly, and Carlos Munoz in 2013. It's a who's who of people who have been the farm system in the Mazda Road to Indy. So if you can win at Long Beach, even with a diminished car count in the Indy Light Series, which has gone up a little bit from 2013, it still means something. This track really has a way of, as much parity as there is in both IndyCar and in Indy Lights, it has a way of getting the best drivers to the front, just as Indianapolis Motor Speedway does. You need to be very well-rounded, you need to be fast, and you need to be very talented to win at Long Beach. So no matter who wins this race, they've got something to hang their hat on and say, you know, I won at one of the most difficult tracks that we race on every single year, a track with a lot of history, and that's something to be proud of, and definitely some momentum as we move on through the series, regardless of who finds themselves on the top step of the podium.
And I know we're looking forward to seeing all the action this weekend. It'll be on NBC Sports Network, and I know, Joel, as always, you'll be following it like you do every time there's an open wheel race. Looking forward to hearing your analysis as we get back at it a week from tonight on The Madness, and as always, glad to have you on the show because we always know open wheel conversation is going to be exciting in some form or fashion.
Exactly. It's not always as much fun when Tom's silent on the mic and doesn't want to banter with me, but I suppose that just means I'm doing my job well and that there's not much to debate. So thanks for having me on as always, and enjoy the racing wherever it may be this weekend.
That's exactly what it means. I haven't had much to say, Joel. You did really good tonight. I'm really impressed.
As always, thank you very much. And like I said, enjoy the racing. It was great last week, and it's going to be great this weekend, too.
All right, with that, we are going to take a caution flag here on Motorsports Madness, but when we come back, Joel and I were just discussing with him, and Tom and I got a chance to sit down with him a couple of days ago. We'll hear from Zach Veach right here on The Madness. You are listening to Speed77 Radio and Race Chaser Online.
Hi everybody, this is Faith Hill for RAD, recording artists, actors, and athletes against drunk driving. As a performer, I've had many wonderful moments to celebrate. So please, when you celebrate, designate. Please choose a designated driver. Music lives, and you should too.
A public service message brought to you by the U.S. Department of Transportation, RAD, the National Association of Broadcasters, and the Ad Council.
I'm Jacob Seelman.
And I'm Tom Baker.
You're listening to Speed77 Radio,
powered by Race Chaser Online.
We are your home for motorsports.
Welcome back to Motorsports Madness here on Speed77 Radio and RaceChaserOnline.com. Jacob Seelman and Tom Baker right here around the round table, sitting down to talk with the most recent Cooper Tires Indy Lights winner from 2014. Starting off a big 2014 season is 19-year-old Zach Veach. Zach, we had you on the program a couple weeks ago, and you were getting ready for the season, and I know you had a lot of optimism, and certainly very well proved why going to St. Petersburg, sitting on the pole, dominating the race, and ended up coming away with a long overdue first victory. Talk a little bit about the race itself and what it means to you to finally come away with this win that you've been working so hard to get.
Yeah, well, I mean, first off, thanks for having me back, guys. It's a pleasure. And I mean, I think the first win, it's still kind of short for words, because, you know, it's probably the most emotional one that you have, and, you know, it's the one that means the most. We definitely had it rough last year. We had a few up and down things, and we really wanted to make sure we went back and just looked through all the mistakes and improved in any way that we could, and, you know, I think that we did that. We went out and we kind of achieved exactly what we wanted to, and that just carried that in through winter testing and then the start of 2014. So I think we started it off right with a win at St. Pete, and we hope to continue that at the Long Beach here next week.
I know looking at the beginning of this 2014 season, it's only the beginning, and you guys have definitely a long road ahead of you for 2014, but with the momentum you guys build from St. Pete, what can you take away from this race that you can utilize going to Long Beach? Because I know a lot of people say the street circuits are similar in a lot of respects, but they don't always translate.
Yeah, well, you know, kind of going into the season, I thought we'd be more likely to get a win at Long Beach than we would be at St. Pete. So I think for us to do what we did at St. Pete, I'm even more excited for Long Beach because, you know, last year, that was one of our better runs until the race. You know, we were fighting for the pole in qualifying and ended up, you know, third. And I think we would have definitely been in the hunt to win that race, but we were taken out on the start there. So it was a little bit of bittersweet, but, you know, I think we're excited to go back and make up for lost time that we had last year. And, you know, this win at St. Petersburg just gives us the momentum to do that and, you know, the confidence to do it as well while everybody else is scrambling to try to get back to the top right now.
Zach, talk a little bit about the Indy Lights series this year, because it seems like we've got a couple more cars and teams participating, and there seems to be some momentum going in the right direction after, you know, last year being kind of a thin year field-wise, but certainly some great competition nonetheless going into 2014.
Yeah, well, I mean, Dan Anderson took over the Indy Lights Series at the end of 2013, and I mean, yeah, we only had 8 probably consistent cars, but I think anyone in that 8 could have won a race that year. It was definitely extremely tough competition-wise, and I think with Anderson coming in, it's going in the right direction. We have a few more cars. 12 isn't a too lot, but it's enough for us to put on a pretty good show. And we managed to get a lot of guys from Europe, including, like Jack Harvey and, a couple other guys that have run up in the GP2 series. One of the guys I think I heard was even supposed to be an F1 test driver. So, I mean, for us to have that competition here in America, I think there's no better time for me to be able to run up front than now, because if anything, it's going to justify how tough the competition is here in America to, all of our, European viewers.
It just seems like Andretti Autosport is off to a particularly good start this year as well, because you've got not only yourself, but of course with Gary Grist and Shelby involved as well, and then naturally the IndyCar teams. But having let the F2000 program fall away for the year, it seems like a bit more focus on the upper levels of the Mazda Road. I'm sure that's got to help all of the teams involved, right?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I think especially with this being the last season of the old Delares and Indy Lights, Andretti has put a lot of focus on being able to win the championship this year. We haven't, it's been since 2008, 2009 since we won an Indy Lights championship, and for me to be coming in, this is my second year in Lights. I think all the pressure's on me. Matt, he's extremely quick, but he's a rookie this year, so he's going to be learning as he goes as well. So, being the veteran on the team kind of has the pressure to go out and do it this year. I think it's definitely helping. I mean, pressure is a privilege, and we'll just keep taking it day by day. We can focus on the 13 races that we have left, but that's going to do no good for us. We just got to focus on Long Beach here come next week, and then hopefully have a good run there, and then take it forward.
I love that phrase, pressure is a privilege, and you're right, that has got to be an interesting situation for you this year, being kind of the elder statesman, if you will, not much older, if any, than Matt, and certainly not as old as Shelby, so it's got to kind of be a unique situation for you to be more or less the leader of the group in a lot of ways, or at least the one who's had the most experience at the upper level.
Yeah, definitely, because we were laughing about this earlier at St. Pete, even before the race, but, I'm the veteran in the series, but also the youngest driver, so I don't know exactly how that works, but, that's in the situation that we're in.
Zach, I know you guys have a lot of optimism going to Long Beach, but I know it's a very tough track as well. What are some of the challenges that you guys are going to face going into the race weekend at Long Beach that could really make or break the win for the competitors and the contenders come the end of the race?
I think a lot of it has to do with fear. For a lot of the guys, I don't know if that's exactly the right word, but, for Chavez and I, we have a season of Indy Lights on the road courses. So, when you get to a new place like that, you're learning the track while you're still learning the car. You don't want to bend something up while you're doing that. And, the thing that really allows you to be quick on a street course is, throwing that worry of tearing something up completely out the window and just focusing on, practically touching the walls as lightly as possible. You aim to get as close as possible and, not being worried about, that you're going to clip something. And then once you have that comfort, you're so much quicker.
And I know you've probably heard this several times over the course of the last few days, but I am curious to know, we know how big it is for your season from a standpoint of going out and laying down a foundation to contend for this championship, but knowing how much you struggled to get to this point, what does the first win mean to you?
It's the light at the end of the tunnel. I mean, it means so much, but to me, it's just justification that, the time that you put in, you really do get the reward from it. And if anything, it's more motivation to work even harder. Because, St. Pete was yesterday. I really want to remember it and say, hey, we won. But today it doesn't matter, because today is all about Long Beach going forward. So, we enjoyed the time that we had at St. Petersburg, but now everybody's back on the level playing field, and we just got to make sure we're better prepared race time at Long Beach again.
Zach, we've talked quite a lot on this show and also in our other various media forums about all of the particular causes that you've been involved in over the last several years. Can you talk about what you may have going on at this point and anything that the fans should be aware of in terms of your involvements with not only the anti-bullying but the texting and driving, and anything new that might be on your horizon at this point?
Yeah, of course. We don't have exactly too much going on right now because we're focusing solely on the light season that I have, quickly approaching here. But there's going to be a lot of more fun things come up in the middle of the season. We're going to be doing a lot of things with the young Marines. They're all about kind of bringing the youth up the right ways and keeping them, healthy and a drug-free lifestyle. We are going to be doing a few things with the Great American No Bull Challenge as we get underway, and that's us going out and having kids submit their videos to how they're standing up to anti-bullying. And, we got some texting while driving things coming up, too. I'm going to be re-releasing my app that's going to be, updated a little bit better, and then it's going to be on the actual Apple, the iStore. So that's going to be nice on the App Store, and I just, I'm just focused on racing. I want to do as much as I can to help others right now, but this is taking a lot of my time up more so than it ever has.
And we know how bright that philosophy is from you going forward, Zach, and it's certainly as admirable as ever. But I know you can't do it alone, and I know you've got a lot of people and supporters that you want to thank, especially after as big a weekend as you have. So we're going to step back and let you give some shout-outs to all those people that make it happen for Zach Veach.
Yeah, most importantly, I want to thank my team, Andretti Autosport, my mechanics, Jonathan, Sean, my engineer, Doug. They have worked extremely hard last season and through the winter to, help me get to where I was at St. Petersburg, and, they're going to continue to do so throughout the rest of the season. But, then, of course, the one person that makes it all possible for me, and, that's John Spar from Replay XP. They're the primary sponsor on the car. So, we wouldn't be out there without them, as well as the young Marines and ADS IT Solutions for making it all possible for me at the end of the day, and hopefully being a part of my 2014, championship season.
And Zach, as always, we appreciate you taking a few minutes to sit down with us here on the show, and look forward to seeing everything that continues to go on with you and the Andretti team in 2014. Wish you all the luck going forward as you head to Long Beach this coming weekend, and we'll look forward to having you back on the show later on in the season to talk about the continuation of your Indy Lights run.
Yeah, and hopefully we'll be talking about the Indy Lights win at Long Beach as well.
With that, we will take a break here on the Madness, but we have got more coming up right after these words. We will be right back.
For 17 years, Stock Car Steel has been a leading material supplier to the racing industry. We're proud they're a Motorsports content partner here at Race Chaser Online. The biggest names in NASCAR trust Stock Car Steel for raw materials such as carbon steel, chrome moly, DOM, aluminum, plastics, and much more. You can't build a race car without the basic materials, and Stock Car Steel is the place to get them. Don't forget to also visit Stock Car Steel's sister company, SRI Supplies, for racing and industry. SRI is the place to go for all your shop supply needs. Nuts, bolts, rivets, tapes, adhesives, cutting tools, chemicals, body shop supplies, paint shop supplies, lubricants, and more. A well-stocked race shop is a winning race shop, and the path to winning begins with 3 letters, SRI. For more information, visit stockcarsteel.com or SRI-supplies.com. Check them both out on Facebook or call them toll-free at 1-888-752-7272, 1-888-752-7272.
The odds of a young girl being discovered by an industry insider while singing to herself pumping gas? 1 in 300 million. The odds of the daughter of a clergyman from Severn, Maryland spending 11 weeks at number 1 on the U.S. singles charts? 1 in 19 million. The odds of going on to win 6 Grammy Awards? 1 in 1.4 million. The odds of selling over 40 million records? 1 in 800,000. The odds of this musician and performer having a child diagnosed with autism? 1 in 110. I'm Toni Braxton, And I encourage you to learn the signs of autism at autismspeaks.org. Early diagnosis can make a lifetime of difference. Autism Speaks. It's time to listen. Brought to you by Autism Speaks and the Ad Council.
With our patented Hex-Tech grips, Cobalt tools are tough to put down.
Try it now.
What are you doing up there, Jimmy? Welding, Chad? Get in the car. Pipe wrench. Hey, Jimmy.
Cobalt tools, tough to put down. Available exclusively at Lowe's.
I'm Jacob Seelman.
And I'm Tom Baker.
You're listening to Speed77 Radio,
powered by Race Chaser Online.
We are your home for motorsports.
Welcome back to Motorsports Madness here on Speed77 Radio and RaceChaserOnline.com. We alluded to it earlier in tonight's program, and as we cross the top of the hour, we return to the NASCAR Nationwide Series portion of tonight's show as we sit down to talk with winner from Friday night's O'Reilly Auto Parts 300, Chase Elliott, scored his first career NASCAR Nationwide Series victory under the lights at Texas. Chase, first off, thank you for taking some time to talk with us this evening. And the first question I know has been on everybody's mind is, what's the whirlwind been like for you since you got the win on Friday night? Because while we knew that you were running well most of that race, I don't know that there were a lot of people that expected you to just go up and take it like you did in the closing laps.
Well, I appreciate it. First off, thanks for having me. And no, it's been great. Obviously a great few days. I'm not sure that's completely stuck in yet, but it's a great, just awesome experience for me. And first and foremost, we had a really fast race car, and the guys did a phenomenal job preparing a car to take to Texas, and they definitely did their job at the shop. And those guys are experienced, and they know how to win races. And for me, it's kind of up to me to get the job done for them, and I feel like if I can do that, I think that we'll be just fine. So, like I said, it was a really, really cool night for us on Friday night. It was, cool just to have the opportunity to go run with those Cup guys, and just kind of be in the hunt was really neat, and to be able to get the job done was really, really cool.
Looking at the guys you beat for the win, I mean, you look at guys like Kyle Busch, Kevin Harvick, your boss, Dale Earnhardt Jr., two of those three are your teammates. What did it mean to you to beat those guys, and knowing that you beat the best of the best to win Friday night, especially two guys who you've not only looked up to, but really leaned on for advice all weekend getting the car ready to go on Friday?
Yeah, absolutely. Both Kevin and Dale have been awesome to me. They've offered a lot of advice up, and that they've been helpful week in and week out, not just to Texas, but pretty much everywhere we've gone. I've gotten a lot of advice from both of those guys. So, and I hope to try to continue to do that in the future. There's a lot of racetracks I'm going to this year I've never been, but looking back, and I know it's an often talked about topic. Whether the Cup guys are on in the Nationwide Series, and I've been a supporter of it, really the whole time, and I think it's a good thing for the sport. I think it's a good thing for the racetracks, and bringing fans to watch those nationwide races and watching them on TV. So I feel like it's a great thing for the Nationwide Series, and I think for the drivers too. For a young guy like myself, I think there's so much to be learned from those guys that know how to win races, and those guys are in the position they're in because they deserve it, and that they can get the job done. And I think there's too much to be learned from guys like that to not have them run, the Nationwide Series, and to be able to run with those guys on a weekly basis helps a lot. And hopefully we can do that more in the future, and hopefully that'd be great if we can.
Looking at the circumstances, and even going forward now in further to the Nationwide Series season, You won the event in just your 6th series start. Really have come out of the box so strong. You lead the nationwide points going into this coming weekend at Darlington. For you to have had this kind of success this quickly, what does it mean to you knowing that this is really just the start of your journey for 2014?
Well, I mean, as far as the points deal goes, having the points lead right now is like having the best batting average on opening day. It doesn't mean a whole lot in April to be leading the points. It's definitely cool to know that we've had some strong runs, but at the same time, there's so much improvement to be done on my part and everybody's part. We got to make sure we keep trying to improve and get better and grow as a race team and stay focused. The season's such a long year, and it's just week 6, so. Moving into Darlington, I'll make sure we stay on track and try to make our cars a little faster. For myself, try to do a better job for the guys, giving them better information in practice and giving them better information throughout the race to help them make the right adjustment. So, like I said, just got to make sure we keep trying to get better and and grow, and hopefully have a good rest of the season.
You're contending for Rookie of the Year against a lot of guys who have been very, very strong in everything they've raced, just as you've been strong in everything you've raced here over the last couple years. But knowing the kind of success that you've had in 2014 obviously comes with a learning curve. What has been for you the learning curve so far this season, and what have been some of the challenges you've faced along the way?
Well, I think the biggest thing, for me right now is going to all these new racetracks and doing it in a new car for me. I'm not, don't have a ton of experience in nationwide cars yet, and going to 1.5 mile, 2 mile racetracks, 2.5 mile racetracks, places that I've never been to in the past, which is just such different animals than the type of short track racing that I've done the past 5 years. So it's been a little different going to those places and just having to deal with the aerodynamic side of things. And there's so many more variables, when you're going that fast. So it's just a different world. You're playing with all kinds of different, like I said, adjustments and variables and things that you have to work with, and the aerodynamic side too. Like I said, so just a lot of changes for me at those racetracks, and I think that's going to be, the thing throughout the year. Going to new places and trying to adapt and. Moving into Darlington this weekend, that's a place that, from what I've always seen, is an extremely tough racetrack, and, I definitely don't expect it to be easy. It looks like a tough place. I've always enjoyed watching races there. I think it's one of the best places to go and watch a race at, too. So, I think it's going to be exciting to get to Darlington. I've always enjoyed watching the race there, and to have the chance to go, it's going to be a lot of fun.
Obviously, we know you've gotten a lot of support from your team, a lot of support from your teammates this season, but there is another driver in your corner, or former driver, I guess, if you will, that I know has given you a lot of support, and that's your dad, Bill, obviously a 2-time NASCAR Sprint Cup Series champion, and I know as much as he's tried to step back and let you find your own way, I know you have leaned on him for some advice in all this, I'm sure. What have you been able to glean from your dad over this journey, and what's it been like being able to go to him for advice as you tackle some of these tracks that you've never seen before and really get your feet wet in the upper levels of NASCAR?
Yeah, well, like I said, it's been good to have him in my corner. Both my mom and my dad, and they both deserve a lot of credit for my racing career, and we've done a lot of racing together the past 5 years, and like you said, going to some of these new racetracks and whatnot, it's definitely good to kind of have that experience, and on your side, and Darlington's a place to have a lot of success at. So hopefully when we head there, I can get some good information from them that'll help us, and that's the biggest thing too, is having great supporters like my parents, but at the same time having great sponsors like Napa, and those guys came on board this off season and really made this whole deal happen for me. And I encourage everybody to go out and go to a Napa Auto Parts store, and if nothing else, just go in and look around. You might be tempted to buy something. So it's just a cool opportunity, and honored to have those guys on board with us.
I know we've done a lot of looking ahead, a lot of looking at all the success you've had so far this season, but I kind of want to throw back the clock just a second to one of the big accomplishments that you had last season, completing the Super Late Model Grand Slam, if you will. Finally crossed the last race off of that 4-race series, and you've now won the World Crown 300, the Snowball Derby, the All-American 400, and the Winchester 400. It took you a long time to win at Fairgrounds Speedway in Nashville, but what was that like for you last year, knowing that it was probably going to be your final season in the Super Late Models, to finally cross the last really crown jewel off your list?
Yeah, it was a really, really cool experience. I look back, and we've had such a great group of guys. I really think that's just a testament to them, and I've learned so much from them, and I feel like being able to go race with such a great group. And I look back at we raced late models for about 5 years, and there's really not a new face from the first weekend I started racing to the last weekend. All those guys were supportive and stuck around the whole time, and I think that says a lot to the type of people that we had helping us and a part of that. So it was really, really cool to travel, across the East Coast with those guys and do a lot of racing. We raced a ton, man, and just to go and have them and just to learn and grow as a team and kind of just go racing, and have a good time. It was a lot of fun, and to get that win at Nashville last fall was really cool. And obviously it was a good win for us, and to have won all 4 of those races means a lot to me. And hopefully one day we can go back and maybe try to do it again.
I know over the last couple months you're just finishing up your senior year of high school, and I can certainly relate to juggling a lot of motorsports time with a lot of schoolwork right there along with you. But I know the night your boss, Dale Earnhardt Jr., won the Daytona 500, you actually came in late the next day. But just finishing up your senior year, what has the balancing act been like for you, especially with weekends like this past one at Texas, where there's so many obligations, but you still want to finish strong on the academic side?
Yeah, well, it's definitely a tough balance. I've been, I feel like I've been pretty fortunate from that aspect to go to a good school and have good buddies and have good support when I come home. So I definitely can't lose sight of that. Obviously schooling is extremely important, and I still have about 4 weeks left, so I got to make sure we finish strong there. And obviously there's a lot of commitments on the racing side too, but still a little bit of school left, and got to make sure we try to finish off strong there too.
Looking ahead, finally, this weekend at Darlington, obviously you said it's a track you've never been to, but it's a track your dad had a lot of success on, and one you've seen many times over growing up. But what do you think the biggest challenge is going to be for you this weekend? Because they don't call it the track Too Tough to Tame for nothing. Yeah,
no, you're exactly right. I think it's, like I said, it's a really cool racetrack just to watch at. I've always enjoyed watching races there, and it's a challenging place. I mean, that's what it's known for, and it's more than anything, it's a new track to me, and just want to try to go and be the best prepared I can. When we get there, try to have an idea what to do, at least in my best to my knowledge, and try to come out of the box the best we can, and just try to get used to the racetrack as quickly as possible so we get that tune on our car.
And Chase, I know you can't do it alone, and you've mentioned a couple of them already, but I know you've got a lot of people, a lot of supporters, a lot of sponsors behind you that help make weekends like this past one at Texas possible, and make victories like the ones you've tasted over the last couple of years possible. So I'm going to step back and let you give some shout-outs and talk a little bit about the people that make it happen for Chase Elliott.
Yeah, for sure. Well, obviously now Auto Parts is the main thing, and I touched on it a little bit before, and just having those guys and going into the off season last year, not being sure what we were going to do, and just really having a big question mark next 2014 was definitely not the most comforting feeling in the world. But to have them come on board, an Atlanta-based company, they're only about 30 minutes from my house, so cool to have that connection with them, and to have them come on board, it just means the world to me, and they're the reason I'm racing right now. Had it not been for them, I'm not sure what I'd be doing. So I owe all of those guys and their support for myself and Junior Motorsports and everybody over there. So it's been good to be teamed up with people like Mr. Hendrick and Dale Earnhardt Jr. and Kelly and Earnhardt Miller and just that whole group over there. Greg Ives, obviously being very fair with him. But crew chief before us this year has been been a lot of fun getting to know him, and hopefully we can keep growing all these relationships, and hopefully they'll be long lasting.
And as we head to what we anticipate to be our final caution flag of the evening, Chase, want to say a big thank you to you for coming on and spending a few minutes on the show tonight. We look forward to seeing you hit the track this coming weekend at Darlington for the VFW Sport Clips 200, and wish you the best of luck for the rest of your NASCAR Nationwide season. Hopefully we'll have you back on the show later on talking about continued success.
I hope so. I appreciate you for having me, and hopefully talk to you again soon.
And with that, we will be right back.
Packers,
Vikings,
Red State,
Blue State.
We come from different places.
Uptown,
Downtown.
We come to different conclusions.
half empty,
Half full.
But no matter how different we are, we're all connected, and we can all make a difference. That's why United Way brings people, expertise, and resources together to improve the education, income, and health of our communities, the building blocks for a better life. When we live united, our efforts, magnified by others, add up to real change. Children succeed in school, families gain financial stability, the health of our neighbors improves, and suddenly, so do our communities. But real change won't happen without you.
Live united.
So let's look beyond our differences.
Live united.
One by one, let's make a difference. Let's reach out a hand to one and influence the condition of all.
Live united.
Give, advocate, volunteer. Live United. Sign up today at liveunited.org. Brought to you by United Way and the Ad Council.
If I had a nickel. If I had a nickel. If I had a nickel for every time I wish my car had a horn. If I had a nickel for every time.
For every lucky charm I have brought to the racetrack.
If I had a nickel.
For every wardrobe change I had to make.
Man, if I had a nickel. If I had a nickel for every time I coulda, woulda, shoulda.
If you had a Sunoco Rewards credit card, you'd get a nickel for every gallon you pump. Go Sunoco.
I'm Jacob Seelman.
And I'm Tom Baker.
You're listening to Speed 77 Radio,
Powered by Race Chaser Online.
We are your home for motorsports.
Welcome back to Motorsports Madness here on Speed77 Radio and RaceChaserOnline.com. Jacob Seelman, Tom Baker, and want to welcome to the roundtable now this evening our resident dirt track racing experts from the Turn 5 Racing Podcast, Stephen Ovens and Clint Miller. Steve, boy, we had a lot of dirt track racing this weekend. You guys were on site at the Hard Clay Open up at the Orange County Fair Speedway. We had a pair of World of Outlaws races from Calistoga. Got a lot to talk about, and really glad to have you guys back on the show, because if anybody in our cast of characters knows dirt, it's y'all.
That is for sure. If there's one thing that we know, it's dirt, and we both had an opportunity to go out and get a little dirty yesterday, and when you come home at the end of the day and you gotta put everything in the wash and take a shower just to feel like a normal human being, I'd say that's a good day at the races.
Absolutely, I would second that notion. Certainly enjoy getting a little down and dirty myself. Let's talk about the Hard Clay Open first. The NDRL sanction up there for their opening weekend of racing this season. You guys were on site there over the weekend. I know you guys gave us a ton of multimedia coverage on RaceChaserOnline.com, but let's talk a little bit about the racing action, because I know it was certainly a very hard-fought weekend of racing.
It was, and to be able to provide that coverage was a lot of fun for us yesterday, and there was so many storylines to cover with this Hard Clay Open in particular. You had a modified race where a lot of variables played factors. You could bring a big block motor, you could bring a small block motor, you could bring a dirt spec engine motor. Then you had the option of running either American Racer tires or Hoosier tires. And on top of all of that, if that wasn't enough, you could also put sail panels on the quarter panels of the modifieds. And just as an added bonus, they also were qualifying on passing points, and something that I think, Jacob, you're going to love. They ran 3 consies, and after each consi, they took 3 cars. but each car that finished 4th place in those consies got to run in a last man standing LCQ, and that was probably the best race of the day.
The best 2 laps going.
Absolutely. They came off of turn 4, and Gary Tompkins and Bob McGannon, it was Chuck McKee. Chuck McKee in his 33 and Bob McGannon, they were door to door. They rubbed fenders, traded some paint, and it was a photo finish to get the last spot in the Hard Clay Open.
3 cars, a couple of laps, and it was the best race of the day. Hey, Tom, I'll take that any day of the week.
Well, it only takes 2 cars to make a great race, and if you can get a green, a white, and a checkered, it can also be a great race. So you're right. Yeah, I'll take that any day of the week. I've seen some great races with a handful of cars. It just depends who the cars are, where they are, and what type of a race it is.
And the interesting thing about it, Tom, and they had 3 B mains, and when your B main was over, the 4th place car pulled right into pit road. You couldn't go to your pit, you couldn't adjust on the car, so every time a B main was over, the next guy in line came up on the front stretch. And Gary Tompkins, who finished 4th in the 3rd B main, came off the track just in time to catch up with the other 2 that were just going out on the track. So it was, you run what you had, there was no adjustments to be made.
Yeah, it was really exciting to see those guys do that, and that was to get the very last spot in the Hard Clay Open, which was 50 laps long. They had 59 dirt modified show up for the Hard Clay Open, and which was really incredible because they had a rain out on Friday night at the Big Diamond Raceway, which was running their Money in the Mountains show, and a lot of the super dirt car stars, all of the gypsum teams, Billy Decker, Pat Ward, Larry White, Matt Shepard, a lot of those guys, because of that rain out Friday, had to go to Big Diamond to run that race yesterday, and we still had 59 modifieds at Orange County, which I was really impressed with. It was great racing, 50 laps for their feature. Andy Bicchetti pulls the pole during the redraw and led all 50 laps, had some great challenges from young Anthony Perego. And I know this is not the first time we've mentioned Anthony on the Madness here. And again, I'll say it, this is a guy that you're going to want to watch out for, and I'll tell you why. They ran 50 laps at the Hard Clay Open yesterday. Andy Bicchetti in his big block took the win, but Anthony Perego in a small block was running him down and ended up cutting a tire with 2 laps to go, which brought out the last caution of the day. And I just wonder what may have happened if Perego hadn't cut that tire, because he was putting on a show for the fans there at Orange County.
3 words: woulda, coulda, shoulda, and ultimately didn't. It's unfortunate, Stephen, but Andy Bicchetti, very, very impressive run. He didn't run away with it, but he certainly proved that he knows how to get it done, and he got it done at the Orange County Fair for the Hard Clay Open, so congratulations to him on winning the season opening event, and thank you guys for all the coverage you provided of the event over the weekend. I know you guys had a fantastic time up there, and it was really exciting to have all the coverage we did from over the weekend, from video to all the updates. Just really a banner job that you guys did this weekend, so looking forward to seeing some more dirt track coverage from you guys over the course of the season, definitely. But while we're on the subject of dirt, let's talk World of Outlaws, shall we, from the Calistoga Speedway, and let's talk about how the weekend was basically a party for Casey Kane Racing. Saturday night, night 1 at Calistoga Speedway, Brad Sweet goes to victory lane. Night 2, Darren Pittman goes to victory lane, but what's so special about that is not only did the defending champ grab his second win of the season, Casey Kane Racing finishes 1, 2, 3. Brad Sweet in second, Cody Dara holding off a furious charge from Rico Abreu to come home third. First time ever, Steve, in Outlaws history that one team has swept the entire podium.
Yeah, and what's great about that is I would have to go out on a limb here and say that if you were going to say, if you someday you're going to look in the record books and say, okay, who was the first team to take 1, 2, 3? I don't know that Casey Kane Racing probably would have been at the top of that list with as strong runs as teams like Tony Stewart Racing. With strong teams like that, it would kind of surprise you that maybe it wasn't a team like that would take that record. But Casey Kane Racing coming off of the championship last year, and I really think that now we're starting to see Darren Pittman break out of whatever early season funk they had and say, okay, we're not going anywhere. We won the championship last year, and we're coming out to do it again and see how many more times we can do it. Brad Sweet, who, Clint, we've talked about being the guy that could be that next Darren Pittman to come up and challenge Darren and Donnie for the championship, along with Paul McMahon and Brad and Darren both getting wins this weekend.
Yeah, when Brad stepped into KKR cars last year on a part-time basis, he was always competitive. He always would run right around the top 5. I think he even won 1 or 2 races last year, if I remember right. I'm not positive.
I believe he got one at Eldora.
So, when you get in a part-time ride like that and you're competitive, you're only going to get better when you get stepping back into it full-time. And he's only been out of it full-time for a couple years, and he stepped right back in, and he's fast.
Yeah, that he is, and very impressive. I want to talk about a run gone sour, too. Didn't get the finishing position he deserved, but Jason Myers, especially on Saturday night, a run in top 5 the entire race, ends up with the muffler problem. They DQ Myers because you have to have both mufflers on the car at the conclusion of the event to be credited with your finishing position. But Stephen, we've talked about Jason Myers before. 2-time Outlaw champion, stepped away because of family commitments, and Myers, even though he only runs some of these part-time races now with the Tarleton gang in California, Myers still proven he's every bit as competitive as he was when he was winning races and winning championships back in 2010 and 2011, and I was really hoping that he might get up and contend with the KKR guys, and I feel like he could have had he not had the muffler problem.
Well, this all goes back to what we said about Anthony Perego. Woulda, coulda, shoulda. But the thing with Jason Myers is he's a guy that doesn't matter what car he runs. If you put him in decent equipment, anytime he rolls through the gate, he's going to be in contention for the win. And I go back to the seat that he filled last year for the World Finals. I do think there is something to not being on a full-time basis that might take a little bit away. You don't maybe get quite the momentum going and into a rhythm of the race season. But again, he showed the other night, if you put him in a car with decent equipment, he's got a shot at it. And it was really unfortunate to see it end that way for him.
Yeah, it really was. But, we'll see him back later on in the season. The Outlaw's going to return to California. Not worried about that. So I'm sure we'll see Jason Myers back in the thick of things going forward into 2014. Obviously not running for the championship, but still competitive every time he hops in with the Outlaws. Tom, I want to turn to you for a second while we're talking some down and dirty business, because we definitely had some interesting happenings over the weekend in a different kind of dirt racing, and that's USAC Silver Crown action. We saw Cody Swanson, who's run on pavement the last 1,800 races in USAC, come over to the dirt side and pretty much blow everybody out of the water in Terre Haute, Indiana over the weekend.
Well, Cody Swanson is another of these young kids that we've been talking about throughout the show that just so doggone much talent. I say young, he's getting older now, but definitely, that was a stacked field. You're talking, guys like Bobby East, Dave Darwin, Zach Dahm, Tracy Hines. I think Tracy got second, actually, if I remember correctly, and it might have been Jerry Coons Jr. getting third. But Christopher Bell, this is definitely a stacked field. And you're right, Cody Swanson just blew him away. That was a great run.
Took the lead and never gave it up, led close to 70 laps on the night. And, again, we think of him as a pavement guy, but he hops on dirt and runs with the best of them. But, Steve, just getting ready to finish up the Outlaws Tour, swinging back around to the sprint cars now, getting ready to finish up the Outlaws Tour through California, finishing up their spring break, if you will. What do you anticipate from the series as we return more towards the east side of things?
Well, the only thing that I've learned about trying to predict what's going to happen this season is that we can't predict anything that's going to happen. We have just seen a lot of different drivers take down wins. I do think at some point we're going to see the Donnie Schatz that we know and love break out of his shell of not winning a few races in a row here. I think he will start breaking through. Another guy to watch who's been in the top 5, it seems like, the last handful of races that we've covered here on the Madness. Keep your eye on Joey Saldana. He just seems to keep finishing in the top 5 every race we cover, and that'll be a guy that I really think you're going to want to watch out for.
I agree, and I can't believe that Saldana has yet to score his first victory in that Motor Equipment number 71M. Wasn't able to get the job done last year, though he came, again, so close, so many times. Joey Saldana is one of the best of the modern era in the world of outlaws, and I have a hard time believing that he'll be in this funk forever. I feel like it's kind of a situation that we've run into with some of these guys like a Kurt Busch or like some of these guys who have broken long winless skids in the NASCAR side over the opening weeks of the season. If he can just get that first win, I feel like then the confidence will be back and things will really start to pile up for that team.
I would expect that it would happen. And Joey's a guy who's done it before. He's been there. He's kind of a guy that's been there, done that, knows the game. He's been racing on the Outlaw Tour for a long time. And you never know. When we get over to the East Coast here, he could really break out and do some damage. And before we break away with you guys, I did want to mention one last note from the Hard Clay Open. If the fans listening get a chance, go over to either the Race Chaser Online Facebook page or the Turn 5 podcast page and check out the right rear D500 that came off of the race winner Andy Bicchetti's car. There was cord showing on the outside of that tire, and it's a good view.
That is how close you can come to either winning a race or losing a race. And Steve, Clint, as always, appreciate your guys' analysis. And I want to turn back to Tom before we close the dirt section and really get ready to wrap this show up. One more piece of down and dirty news from over the weekend, and that was the AMA Supercross. As we've seen the last several weekends, Supercross going to Houston to NRG Stadium for their 14th of 17 events. And you and I have been asking the last couple weeks, Tom, what's been up with Ryan Villopoto? What's been up with Ryan Villopoto? He's just not been doing what we know he knows how to do. Well, say no more. We go to Houston, Ryan Villopoto back on top.
Well, one of your favorite little phrases is, did you doubt me? Well, I guess the question, did you doubt him? I think we all knew that eventually Ryan Villopoto was going to go back to winning again. And it just goes to show, really, the competitiveness of that series, which is what we've talked about for most of this season. You know, Villopoto, 38th career victory for him. And you know, there's a guy who, you know, we started talking about James Stewart for a little while here, and here comes Villopoto right back. Stewart ended up 5th. in that race, incidentally. But here comes Villapoto right back and picking up a victory. I just love the way this series is developed this year, because between the two of them, they've really more or less been the story. I've got to tell you, the next race, which is going to be in Seattle, is going to be very, very intriguing. I just think that you've got a series now that, okay, there may not be a great quantity of 450 riders, but boy, the quality of this field from top to bottom is just amazing.
Yes, it is. Absolutely. The quality, I don't think I've seen this competitive a Supercross field in years. And we talk about Seattle next week. I would expect Ryan Villapoto to go out guns blazing to try to win that race, because it's his hometown race. It's his hometown fans. He wants to perform well in front of the people that have helped make it happen. And he said it himself after the race last week, or over this weekend, that he doesn't get up there that much anymore because of his commitments with both motocross and supercross. So anytime he can go up there, it's special for him, and he wants to perform. So I would look for Villapoto to absolutely keep continuing the role he's on. And as for James Stewart, finished fifth, rallied back. He was ill all weekend, really, really ill. You could tell it on the Fox Sports 1 broadcast, but he fought hard, dug deep, won his heat race again, battled to a top 5 finish, and moves into second in the points, just 45 markers behind Ryan Villapoto, almost a 2-race deficit for James Stewart. So while the championship may be out of reach, certainly a very strong season. It has been grabbed his 50th career win. He's got the most wins this season in Supercross competition with 5. Villapoto second with 4. So, as you said, Tom, those two have been the story. And we're going to take a 15-second pause for station identification. And when we come back, we'll wrap up the madness. Stay with us.
I'm Jacob Seelman.
And I'm Tom Baker.
You're listening to Speed 77 Radio,
powered by Race Chaser Online.
We are your home for motorsports.
Welcome back to the madness here on Speed 77 Radio and Race Chaser Online. Let's take this home, Tom, shall we? Before we go off air tonight, this coming weekend, going to be headed to Darlington, and it's an earlier date for Darlington, the Lady in Black, than we've seen in a while. A little bit of schedule swapping going on for this season. We get kind of a mid-April date, a springtime date for the Lady in Black, and I'm pretty excited about this weekend's event, a Saturday night showdown under the lights. It's the Southern 500. It's always exciting when you come to the track commonly known as the track Too Tough to Tame. Tom, what do you expect to see when we get to Darlington this weekend, and how can you pick a favorite with as many tricks as this track throws at you?
Well, I'll answer your first question first. I expect to see stripes. Lots of stripes on lots of race cars. So there's the answer to your first question. The answer to the second question is you can't. I mean, not only is this a track that basically is a wild card for everybody, but it also, you're in a season where we've had 7 winners and 7 races. So, really you can't pick a favorite. And that's what's going to make this race so interesting, because everybody's on the ragged edge there. I mean, with the wall the way it is, the track the way it is, it's just one of those challenging tracks to drive that, it can bite you at any second. And so, we've seen over the years some of the races there where fuel mileage has come into play. I mean, I just think Darlington's one of those tracks that I wish still had 2 races, because frankly, I think this is one of the most entertaining tracks on the circuit to watch, even when the guys are trying to ride around and be calm and kind of just get through the middle of the race. The way the track is, mayhem can ensue at any moment.
Yes, it can, and yes, it usually does. And I'm going to fire right back at you, Tom. You just told me it's impossible to pick a favorite. Well, I'm going to ask you to try and pick a favorite. Who do you like for this this Saturday's Southern 500?
Well, boy, again, it's just so hard to pick. I mean, I almost go back to thinking about who's hot right now and who's not. Now, I'm going to tell you who I think is due to sort of break out and have a good, strong performance here is the 20 of Matt Kenseth. And I think Matt is one of those drivers that you look at and say, okay, he's a veteran. He's been around a long time. This is kind of, a track that I think a lot of times these guys that have been around a while, they know how to deal with it. They kind of have the mentality for it. Let's say Matt Kenseth gets a win on Saturday night at Darlington, but again, this is almost as much of a toss-up in my mind as a restrictor plate race is, just because of the track itself. It just neutralizes. You can look at past stats or whatever, but this is just a track that is really almost a neutral track for everybody because it can just get you so quickly. One little slip and you're in the wall and out of the event.
Yeah, this is true, and lest we forget, Matt Kenseth is the defending winner of the Southern 500, so he got it done last year, and I kind of like that. I almost picked him myself, but I didn't, and I already had this driver in mind when the NASCAR Sprint Cup Series from Texas was going on, and even before they took the green flag earlier this afternoon. And the way he finished the race only further cements my pick for this weekend. And his team at one point, from 1995 to 2004, won 7 out of 10 Southern 500s, and he won 4 in a row, and 5 of those 7. I'm going to go with one of the modern era kings of Darlington Raceway who is due for a victory, and I think he is going to get it after finishing second today in Texas. I'm going with Jeff Gordon to notch a 6th Southern 500 triumph at the Lady in Black and finally get back to victory lane after, yes, he notched a win last October at Martinsville, but other than that one, it's been a while. Jeff Gordon's due, and Jeff Gordon wins on Saturday night.
Well, there would be another example of what I talked about as far as a veteran racer. It's been around a while and has plenty of seat time there at Darlington. This would not be a race, by the way, that I would expect, for example, a Kyle Larson to pull a win. I'm not saying he can't or won't, because Kyle really is, he's shown some remarkable poise in what he's doing, but I definitely don't think this is the type of track or type of race that you break out and get a win in your first time, and I do see it being a veteran. And either Kenseth or Gordon would be solid picks, I would think.
And notice we never even said Jimmy Johnson in this, too. And Johnson's another one who's due, and he's a former winner of the Southern 500. So, our crystal balls aren't perfect, and we probably, or maybe even we will be right on Saturday night. But what we do know is it's going to be an entertaining race, and what we also know is our time is up tonight here on The Madness. It's been a great show. I want to say a special thanks to Joel Sebastianelli, Stephen Ovens, Clint Miller. Thank you to both Zach Beach and Chase Elliott who gave us their insights on tonight's show. And for my co-host, Tom Baker, I'm Jacob Seelman, inviting all you race fans out there to check out RaceChaserOnline.com for all the latest in motorsports news and interviews from around the entire world of racing. We'll be back on the air Thursday night at 7 p.m. Eastern for the Stock Car Steel SRI Motorsports Show. Hopefully Kyle Souza will be back with us then. Kyle's a little under the weather tonight. A shout out to you, bud. Hope you get better soon. And until Thursday, this is Jacob Seelman. Race fans, keep it off the wall. Until we meet again, we'll see you at the racetrack, folks. So long.